Hello, my name is Claire Powers. I'm a pediatric speech therapist and autism parent coach, and I am here with you today to go over the top 5 tips that I have for you as a pediatric speech therapist to increasing and supporting your autistic child's communication skills right now. These are tips that you can learn today and really start implementing and seeing progress today. So, the point of this presentation is really just to keep it simple. I know when I was learning about how to support autistic children's communication skills as a speech therapist, I was overwhelmed by all of the strategies, all of these buzzwords out there, Gestalt language processing, AAC, sign language. I bet you as a parent are also very overwhelmed. So, really, we're going to keep it simple today and really get you some actionable results that you can see quickly. So, before we jump in to really talking about communication skills, I want to invite you to book a call with me if you are looking for more support. I offer a one-to-one coaching program called the Confident Communicator Method, which combines all of the strategies and tools that I have developed over the past 5 years as a pediatric speech therapist supporting autistic and neurodivergent youth. And it's really having someone in your corner helping you know what works and what doesn't so that you can cut down time, no more time stuck in therapies that just don't work for your child, no more time stuck on wait lists, no more precious energy spent wondering if what you're doing is correct and if there's even more you could be doing. So if you are looking for that one-to-one support, I invite you to book a call with me. So let's get into it. So before we talk about the tips and strategies, we have to talk about what the differences are in autistic communication. Many of you have probably heard of echolalia, and that is something that happens when an autistic child is mimicking or repeating what they might have heard you say, what they've heard in YouTube videos, songs, movies, you name it. It's when they're picking up on language in chunks. So you might think of a typical neurotypical child learning language in little pieces. So mama, mama milk, mama want milk, mama, I want some milk, please. So that's kind of how a neurotypical child might learn language. It's called analytic language processing. That's the trajectory that we're used to hearing about. But Gestalt language processing and using that echolalia, that repeated language that they picked up on in chunks, it is just as valid as analytic language processing. And so that's the first thing to know, that if you have a child that is communicating in those scripts, they might be able to recite a whole movie, but they might not have those language skills to have a back and forth conversation. That's what we're talking about here. You also might notice that your child has a strength in labeling. You might have a child that could tell you every single dinosaur name there is, but again, they might have that trouble with the back and forth functionality of language. You might also see them have some trouble with pronouns. So I have worked with children before who would say, if their name was Claire, Claire want a cookie, or Claire is 3. So it's really kind of flipping how they're using those pronouns, because if they're a Gestalt language processor, they learn language directly from how they're hearing it. So if you're saying to your child, Claire, do you want a cookie? They're going to say, Claire, do you want a cookie? Instead of I want a cookie. They might take things literally, difficulty understanding sarcasm and jokes. They may communicate using facts about their special interests. So again, going back to that dinosaur example, you might have a child that could name all the dinosaurs, and random facts about them. And they might all day talk about those facts until they're blue in the face. But they might have some difficulty with being flexible to talk about other things that might interest other people. And finally, they may use more formal language. So you might hear a child who is quite young using words like literally and actually. So now that you know what the differences in communication might be for your autistic child, now we can dive into really how we can support their language at home. So the first thing, and this is what I preach till I'm blue in the face, is we have to make sure that your child is regulated to learn. If your child is not regulated, they are not in a state where they can learn. And I think that that's something that many people don't realize. We expect kids to show up, especially at school. We expect them to show up and they're ready to learn. But in reality, and for many of our autistic kids, they are quite dysregulated. And what that means is that their body is not equipped in that moment to take in information. So you might have a child who's bouncing off the walls like Tigger. They're really just trying to get their needs met. They have so much energy that really the point of helping them regulate is to bring their nervous system back down to that baseline so that they're well regulated and ready to learn. Alternatively, you might have a child who is very passive. They're kind of the Eeyore similarity. So they might need some more stimulation. So you might need to tickle them or play some louder music to really get them engaged and ready to learn. Once our child is regulated, we can go into ways that we can boost their communication and really help them learn skills that will help them be successful in their everyday life. How do we do that? We would use their interests. We want to get your child engaged in learning. And the way to do that is to use their interests and follow their lead. This difficult, especially for speaking from my own experience as a speech therapist. I was taught to have a lesson plan and have a set number of toys, specific toys that we were going to use in every session. I'm willing to bet that many of you as parents kind of feel like you have to be the person guiding the exchange, guiding the teaching of your child. When in reality, we should be getting down on their level, noticing what they notice, what brings them joy, especially for kids who don't necessarily enjoy toy play. You might have a child that doesn't really love toys, and that's okay. You know, I worked with a child once who really enjoyed YouTube videos in different languages. And, that's something that's a little strange, a little different. But I can't tell you how much his eyes lit up when I told him how cool the video that he was watching was. It's so simple, yet the impact goes beyond what you can even imagine when you simply acknowledge what your child is interested in and follow their lead. Trust them to show you and open up to you about what brings them joy, because that's when those communication opportunities will just spontaneously appear. So going along with the Gestalt language processing and echolalia piece that we mentioned earlier, if your child is a Gestalt language processor, that means that they really pick up on the intonation and melody of language. We want to use language that's fun. We want to use language that has music. So I always tell parents to try to just take yourself out of whatever you're doing and just imagine that you are on a stage. You are trying to make language come alive for your child, and you're almost becoming a character. I am someone who is pretty introverted, and I think people do kind of, they're like, what? You're introverted? Because I feel like I have to put on a show. And it's not to say that you have to do this all the time. That's exhausting. I can't do that. But just be aware of the tonality of your language and how you are speaking to your child. Are you kind of flat and monotone, or are you using that sing-song intonation? And one way to use a tool for this is to use songs, use YouTube videos. If your child really likes Coco Melon, use Coco. If your child likes, super simple songs, use those super simple songs. Those are awesome. And then finally, use many forms of communication. I know how badly you want your child to tell you with their words how much they love you when they want something, ask you questions. I know how badly you want that. But I want to encourage you to shift your mindset away from wanting so desperately for your child to communicate using spoken words, and instead just wanting your child to communicate in whatever way works best for them. So what I always tell parents is to acknowledge any form of communication that your child is trying to share with you, whether that's facial expressions, physically, touching you or guiding you to what they want. Celebrate that. That's amazing. And then from there, I always, always, always recommend that parents start using a high-tech AAC device. Now, I know that can sound a little scary, but there are so many free options. And one that I really like, something called Weave Chat. And it is a free high-tech AAC application that allows your child to have access to communication. I work with children who, they can really communicate very well using their spoken words for the majority of the time. But if they're stressed out, if they're anxious, if they're scared, their spoken words are out the window. And so in those scenarios, it's so helpful to have a way that they can access their communication even when their spoken words aren't there. So really, I hope that these tips were helpful for you. In the end, what's most is important is connecting with your child, building trust with them, and trusting them that they will communicate with you in the way that works best for them, and they will achieve success. They will get there because you believe in them and you are willing to walk this journey with them. And in turn, they will teach you so much about yourself and about the world. And I want to finally refer back to this slide again that if you are looking for one-on-one guidance, I encourage you to book a call with me. You do not have to do this alone. And honestly, one of the biggest steps is just reaching out and asking for help, and I am here for you. So thank you again so much for being here. I hope you took away some tangible tips and tricks that you can start implementing today, and I'm looking forward to supporting you even further on your journey. Take care.